Todd, Sean's son, and Brian, just first of all needs a shout out for just arranging this whole thing, because it says invite from Todd and Brian Upton, but Brian really did a yeoman's job, so thank you, Brian. And also my mom can't be here, so she's in here in spirit. She's back in New York. I think she's got a bad ticker. We didn't want to risk her traveling, but Brian's wife Stacy is watching over her, so we're thinking of Mom. She's here in spirit, and just really thanking Stacy quite a bit for doing that. And then the rest of you, I found out people coming and flying in or driving in. It's just such an honor to have you all here. Obviously this hit like a thunderbolt for all of us. Dad to me was way too young. You can't have the arrogance of expectation and think that you're going to have however many decades you get. But as I look around and people come up and I see the decades of my life suddenly unraveling and welcoming back in from 40 years ago. Some of the people I've seen, the last perspective I had, I was probably half my size delivering water on the side of a football field to all these 1970s football players. And then going into the office, getting in trouble, seeing some of the old secretaries at Morello, seeing just this whole kind of wonderful welcoming spirit that Dad would have loved. We can check one thing off. Dad always wanted a traditional Irish wake. He wanted his Guinness, he wanted his whiskey, but he did not want to be there. So here's to you, Dad. He achieved that, which, that's one of those things you want some of your wishes fulfilled. And I think just as, again, that you make these short speeches short and sweet, but I'll take a little time just because as I think about my dad, and I think about the legacy he left to Brian and me, the first thing I remember is it was gallows humor. As I see the cops, thankfully, most of you, you're here, so you've survived to retirement. I was fine until Bob Hennig walked up and not photobomb, but pretty much hit me with the club. That's the only time I started crying this whole afternoon, Dad's old partner. So I'm really touched when I see all of you coming out of retirement, making the trip here. And then besides the cops that Brian and I used to hang out at the police department, Dad would have his office and we'd go to the library, and sometimes we'd get out of school at 2:45. Dad would show up at 8 o'clock. And so in terms of my love of books, I don't know what Brian was doing, because I never really saw him after we got to the library. He was on books. Yeah. I think I remember Brian saying he'll leave his backpack here, and then I was like, I got this, and then I'd look up, it'd be 8 o'clock, and it's like, where have you been? So anyway, that's my big memory, is being at the police department. The cops always tolerated us, which was really significant because it's not an easy life. So I thank the original Boys in Blue for doing all you do, because it's not easy, and we were just always honored to be there. And some of the things we saw pass through there, I'm not sure if a 12 or 13 or 8-year-old should see, but we were there. And then for the football, that was the biggest thing. I've seen all these 1970s and 80s players. For Brian and me, the memory is just gladiatorial combat with the pads, double sessions. The fleeces I see, everybody taking bets at lunchtime to see who's going to kick the shit out of who. And then Brian and I just charging at each other at, 11 and 9, 9 and 7, however old we were. And then just beating each other until we couldn't get up, and then they'd go back to their second half of their double session. Yep. It was a really satisfying lunch. So, the football's been a great thing, and seeing all our old buddies, really honored to come here. Teachers, Roby being here, and Scythe, Michelle. I should be in my belly. It's been nice this week, just kind of reacclimating to Santa Cruz. Been away so long. I've been with Jossie and my kids, Allegra and Julian. Just really glad that they've been here. It hasn't been an easy 2 months. So as we think about Dad, Sean, he would be honored to have all of you here thinking about him. You can't bundle in a 74-year life in even a few minutes, but I think the best legacy he's left for me, and Brian can speak for himself, but it was probably giving permission. Dad didn't always understand. I had explained to him why I wanted to go to college. He had a hard-fought life from when he served in Vietnam to, staying in the longest marriage I've ever seen with Mom. But just when I told him I wanted to go to college, he really didn't understand. He's like, well, how are you going to make money at that? And so then I said, and then thanks to David and Barbara Ng, I figured out how to get into college. And then Dad was teaching at Cabrillo, so I watched him teaching. I would learn how to present yourself in front of students. I got to UCSC, and things went from there. And Dad's only response was, all right, just work hard, don't get in trouble, throw some money for groceries, and keep the place clean. So that was a great lesson just in terms of he having his own path, not understanding what the hell I wanted to do, but giving me permission to do it. I've tried to do that with my own kids, and I hope that I proved out for him. You know, when I'm teaching my own students at Boulder and Metro, I think about him a lot in terms of the classes he used to teach at Cabrillo, and miss him. But I hope as we try to move forward that the best part of him we can always express from ourselves, and I think that's all. When we lose our parents, you can hope as you not take over. Mom's still standing, but Dad's going to be a hard void to fill. You just hope that you can do some justice to that. So I thank you all for being here. We're going to give him that wake. I've already started my drinking, but it'll be in control for the cops. I don't know if the cops are in the room, but we used to get pulled over, and to have Rick Martinez, Brian and I used to be in the hole down for the Whitings, making under the boardwalk, making frozen bananas and sandays. To see him now a retired cop and high up in the hierarchy is just amazing. So I do thank you from the bottom of my heart, everyone, for being here. I'm going to hand it off to this bozo, see what he has to say. I do thank God I was able to speak first, because if Brian was the first out of the gate, I have no idea how this would have gone. Yeah. Thanks you all. Love you, Dad. Very long. That's first toast. Cheers. You go. Good job, bro. Thank you. Thanks, Todd.
Yeah, it was getting kind of ugly. I kind of was with the kids today, and I said I had no idea what I was going to say. And after I said, I'm going to listen to Todd, and I'm going to kind of vibe off that a little bit. But I think I realized when everybody was walking in, I'm going to go, my kids can go get a drink right now because they've heard this one way too much. But there's a story that kind of fundamentally changed me, and it does involve Todd and my dad. Is when I was 21, they took us to Italy, and we were in the Vatican, in the Basilica, and we were doing a tour, and we were looking up, and they were just kind of showing us some of the mosaic tiles and the paintings, and they were describing them, saying that some of those mosaic tiles at the top, you know, it may look like a perfect picture down here, but some of the tiles themselves are 8-9 feet in size, and they get smaller, bigger. And then they also said at the end of the tour, if you want to take the time, it's like 2 hours, you can walk up to the top and tour it. And I'm like, bro, let's go. And he's like, fuck that, I'm not going. Because they said there's one point on the stairs where you can't go backwards. They said there's one point, they said if you're claustrophobic, there's one point where you can't go backwards. And so they took off in Rome, and I started walking up there. And when I went up there, I got up to the top, and the truth was, what they said is, you can't even make the image out. The tiles are so large. But then you realize when you're up there, there's perfect tiles that were the intention, and the one they talked about was a plume, like a pen, and they said it's 14 feet. When you're up there, you can see it, but it's made up of large tiles and mostly broken tiles. And stay with me, I'm getting somewhere with this. As I saw everybody come in, like this speech I usually give, and it works perfectly at weddings, because the thing about that one is I had a fundamental moment, not up there, but when I got back down, I looked back up, and it was that perfect picture again, and I was like, for some reason, at 21 years old, I'm like, it's kind of like everything, the farther you get away from it is perfect. It doesn't feel like it when you're in the moment. So in those, and I don't know why I had it, but for the last 30 years of my life, 32 years of my life, I rely on that. And I don't know when it's going to come, but as everybody started walking in, I'm like, holy shit, tiles. It's tiles, and some of you are broken. Some of you had a relationship that was different. Some of them, I was broken pieces of it as I walk them in. But we're all these like fundamental little pieces, and I'm sitting here going, this is my wedding speech. But I had that same, you know, kind of moment when my dad went. Stacy, who's my wife, who I'll get to in a second, because she's some kind of goddamn hero. But she asked me how I do, and I said, I kind of feel euphoric. I said, I kind of feel, I feel like the same way I do at a wedding. I said, I feel like lucky. And she's like, lucky? And I'm like, very lucky. I said, I feel like I'm lucky I knew him. Like I was disconnected from the dad part for a second. And it was, I'm still waiting to drop, to be honest, but I don't think it's going to happen, because I felt very lucky to be one of those pieces, broken a lot of the times. You know, my dad kicked me out of the house on my 18th birthday. I thought we were going because he was going to be proud because I was going to play football at Cabrillo, and he said, "You got to get out." And so, broken tile. But the farther I got away, I'm like, that was perfect for me because Renner and I got a place and we had a good time, and you know, life kind of went on that way. But it was, but going back to it, it's like I think when I see you guys, like for me, it's like it was about 15 minutes ago. I'm like, this is that one because a lot of you knew my dad in different ways, and he was a coach, and he was a teacher, and he was a father, he was a cop, he was a soldier, you know, and so all of these ones, but some of you know him intimately, and you know some of those broken tiles. You had broken tiles with him, and some of you had these amazingly perfect tiles, but the thing that I feel right now, you know, especially getting, you know, with Todd the last month or so and going through this, is that it's just going to get better. It's going to get better every single moment we step away. It's going to be, you're going to walk down those stairs and it's going to be that one. And I think when I say this at weddings, you know, a lot of times, and it's kind of tired and old, but I think if you can kind of like know broken tiles are coming and it's going to be perfect, you just, you know, you keep going. And so that's kind of where we're at, you know, and I know it's, I feel bad for my kids, because like I said, I use this one all the time, but it's one that I feel like as I saw everybody, it fit, and my dad wasn't perfect. We're not perfect, but it can be perfect, you know. So I really appreciate everybody being here. You know, these faces, it lifts me up, and I think I had some kind of stupid speech about we come from energy and we are energy. I'm so glad I didn't do that one. I'm so glad, you know. But I do want to read a little bit from the. I've gone out every couple weeks, spent like 20, 30 days with my mom, and she feels the first part of this as it all started coming in and the calls, and she picked up and she talked to all of you. They're isolated. They were almost unhealthily connected. So, you know, she's not really ready for this. She's not ready to be alone. But those calls that you guys gave were, I was right there with her, and she hung up, and you know, from the memories back in the 70s, you know, all the way bringing through to, like, you know, Rick helping us with CalPERS, which is, you know, so from the business side of it, you know, to the memory side of it, she felt it all, and she's different for it. You know, they kind of like went into a place there where they weren't connected with everybody the way they wanted to be, and after the stroke, but she feels you, she sees you. We do have a little book down there that is, we thought instead of a guest book, just sign a little letter to my mom, because we'll get it to her, you know, and it means a lot. And I never get like this, but my wife, yeah, it is your fault, but my dad had a stroke on the 1st. My wife Stacy we got out there like in 10 hours, 12 hours, as fast as you can fly from San Francisco, and she hasn't come home. She's with my mom. Sad about my wife and my dad. It's brutal, but it's just that she's kind of like, she's been there the whole time, and she's going to stay till my mom's ready. But easy for me to read. She's got a few words that she sent me, and they're not too brutal, so I'll get through it. Let me see if I. Sorry, I'm trying to be faster here. This was it. Sean, or as we later called him, Pa, was an important part of my life. His immediate acceptance of me surprised me. And he served as a father figure I hadn't had before, and he will forever have a place in my heart for that. He made me laugh almost as much as Brian does, which is saying a lot. She wrote about her favorite memory, but I can tell it a little quicker, and it's just as good, because my dad was a prolific snacker, stealer of food, and he would always volunteer to clean up after big meals, not to be helpful because he wanted to eat all the shit that was left over. But my wife was also like really good at doing homemade gifts for people on the holidays. And it was where they came to visit us in New York from Santa Cruz, and my wife had made a series of like. She had done a bunch of shavings for like different like bath gifts, like some shavings of some soap, and she was doing it with eucalyptus. Really nice kind of gift. She had the bowl prepared for it to put them together the next day. It looked like granola or something to my dad, and my dad was cleaning up, and he came out and he was shaking something in his hand and threw it in his mouth, and it was soap, and he ate it, and he swallowed it, and then he didn't know what was going on. And I think to this day, it's still my wife's. There's not a Christmas that goes by that my wife doesn't tell me, and I shake my snacks too and throw them in my mouth. But she just said, "Rest in peace, Pa. Thank you for being such a big part of my life. I like to imagine that heaven is filled with your laughter and delicious snacks are everywhere for you to sneak." And so I hope I didn't miss anything here. Stacy's a hero. Todd, that was great. And you guys, all of it, it's so meaningful. And I know I went way too long. We're going to have a few people that I talked to, for speaking, and I'll kind of quarterback it a little bit. Ronnie, did you want to go real quick and kind of say some words? You ready?
Get that guy a drink.
What now? Oh, guys, I did forget.
One toast up to Susan and Stacy back in Watertown. Thinking of you, loving you. Cheers. Cheers.
Wow. Brian, Todd, never thought I'd be sitting here right now. Never. But honored for you guys to even put me in that position. I would have never met your dad if it wasn't for the fact that I went to Morello Prep High School. Obviously, I'm the only dork here wearing the jersey, but I'm proud to wear it. Very proud. Yeah, I think it was the first time I ever got recruited out of Pop Warner football to go to Morello. But first person I met at Morello was your dad. And I didn't know what that was going to be like, but I'll tell you what, it was something that changed my life. And I know the experience that we all have with Coach Upton, and by the way, I can never call your father by his first name. That's impossible for me to do, but Coach was Coach. Like all my coaches are Coach, but he was special. He was special to anybody that was around him that knew him. He loved God, he loved his family, he loved his players, he loved everybody around him that he worked with. He was a special, special man. As a juvenile officer, I know that he was very influential in keeping me out of jail a couple times, so I'm glad for that. And, he just had character. He had extreme character. And I look back on all of our experiences. Anybody who was around Coach understood how he was, his discipline, all the things he had set for all of us. Everybody around him, his kids. One of my best friends my entire life. Lives. We were all connected. Our families were connected. Everybody was connected to Coach Upton. I wish your mom was here so I could give her a big, huge hug, and I hope you give me a big hug for her. I will. I know you will. And I look back at the days of what we had at the time that I knew Coach Upton, which was a very brief time in my life. What influence that man had on me. I mean, had on all of us. I mean, think about it. That's why we're all here. He influenced all of us. He was just a good human being. Can't get better than that. You know, treat people like you want to be treated. That's what he always said, you know. And that's exactly what he did in his life. And I'm going to tell you, not only did he create two incredible human beings in his sons, but he was a great father. He was great to his players. He was great to everybody that he was around. And I think that's his legacy. His legacy is you guys and his grandbabies and everything else that goes with that. And I think we're all blessed that we're just a small part of his life. And I just have one memory that I remember vividly of your father. And I know it's kind of an indirect, but being that Father Ron's not here, and I'm not a priest. I am ordained, so, but I remember our sophomore banquet when Father Ron got up and he said, we had the 3 B's. I don't know if you remember this or not, but we had a coach that worked at a mortuary. We had a coach that was a police officer, and we had a coach that was a priest. And so Father Ron gets up and he says, yeah, we had the 3 B's. He goes, we can bless him, we can bury him, or we can bust him. And I'm like, that was a perfect way to end that ceremony. And that's how I'm going to end mine, that's the memory I have of your father. He was beautiful. He meant a lot to all of us. And I know he raised and did well with you 2 boys. And you guys are going to carry his legacy on well. I guarantee it is.
Thanks, brother.
Oh, well now, payback is a bitch. Dad would say. Bob Henning, where are you, friend?
He's at the bar.
Are you kidding me? Bob,
I know it's going to.
there's no getting away from this. We need to have you talk here, friend.
Kill time.
Kill time. Okay.
Coach Scythe.
Did you hear the one about the Merovingian that talked to a priest?
Coach Scythe.
Coach Scythe, sorry. Go ahead. It ends in a burial. It's not good. Go ahead.
I'm not used to giving speeches after the closing act. I mean, you guys shut the crowd down here. I should have started. I retired 8 years ago. I gave a lot of speeches as a school administrator in my last 20 years. But I found that the memory is kind of a little cloudy at times. So I wrote down what I'm going to say.
Very good man.
All right. Where's my podium?
I'm sorry. I can hold the mic if you want.
I said, good afternoon, good evening, you guys. I recognize most everyone, but there's a whole group that don't know me. My name is Brad Scythe. My wife Michelle and I taught for many, many years at Morello, and that's where I met Sean. I met him the summer of 1978. I was hired just at the end of the school year to come and teach and run the athletic program. So when I came to Morello, first thing I needed to do was contact all my coaches and let them know I'm the athletic director. If they need anything, call me. One of the first phone calls I made was to our varsity football coach, who informed me that he would not be returning to coach football at Morello a month from now. Okay, so I went to our new principal, Dr. Baltus, and I said, our football coach just resigned. And he goes, oh, that's a shame. You do football? I said, yeah, I played in college. I did 2 years as an assistant coach at Santa Clara High School. And he goes, I guess you're our new football coach. Oh. Quick on the hire. He says, don't worry. He goes, I'll help you out. Now, can you imagine me as a 24-year-old first job, just got appointed head football coach, and my boss is going to help me coach the football team. How many of you remember Dale Baltus? Dale Baltus didn't allow anything that didn't go through his hands first. He took over. And the story behind the story is he had an idea of how football should work. Midwestern guy, 3 backs in the backfield, Mr. Felice, Mr. Brokaw, you back me up on this? QR, okay, the whole bit. So we went through the first 2 weeks of football practice, and we never lined up on defense. We never kicked the football, we never kicked off, we never punted. We were running the wishbone offense every day. Hey Dale, we got a game next week. We haven't even talked about defense yet. He goes, oh, defense. You put 11 guys out there that want to play, and you let them play. And I'm a defensive guy. I'm sorry. Defensive back in college, and I was a defensive coordinator for the previous 2 jobs. He says, no, just line them up. Okay, all the nose guards here, all the tackles over there. I said, he goes, all right, when I turn my back, if you want the position, fight for it. He looks at me, he goes, Brad, what are they doing? They're not doing anything. And he turns back around, he goes, you guys don't want to play defense? He goes, fight for the job. Harton, nose guard, turns around and decks this guy standing next to him. And a fight broke out. Am I telling you the truth? There were 11 positions out on the field, all having a boxing match. I'm going, oh my God, what did I get into? All right, so I'm a little concerned. I met some sanity. Sean Upton calls me. Brad, he goes, I've got the JV program covered. I know people. Now, I'm from Santa Clara, never been in Santa Cruz other than to go to the beach, and have no clue of what Morello Prep's history or future were to hold. I'm looking for a job because I've got a wife who's now pregnant with our first child, and I need to make this happen. So as it turns out, Sean says, oh, don't worry, Brad. I know people. I've got, sure enough, it was too good to be true. But Sean took over. He introduced me to people. He brought in assistant coaches. He introduced me to people from the Morello community that were very interested in supporting athletics. He brought the first sanity in my Morello career. (1978), about that year, we had kind of a light turnout for football. 18 boys signed up to play JVs, 17 boys signed up to play varsity. Now, there were some pretty good guys in it. That was 7 years later, it was 83. Sean had been coaching the JVs, I've been coaching the varsity, and said, well, this doesn't make any sense. Let's make this happen. Sean goes, let's just combine them. Let's teach them how to play football. And it turned out to be a really smart thing. We brought them all together. We separated for games. But Sean ran the offense and I ran the defense for both teams. And needless to say, our 14 of which started the game against Santa Cruz High, a game that we won 14-0. We did some pretty amazing things, and some of you guys, again, out of the crowd, were in that group. Ronnie McNeil was one of them. That's why, he was a leader of that group. Todd played on that group. Can I say we had a little success that year? Yeah. With 17 guys. As Ronnie said, somebody forgot to tell us we couldn't play with just 17 guys.